storm raged outside. Fierce winds howling through the trees and rain lashing against the windows of the old farmhouse. Claire sat alone in the living room, a candle flickering beside her, as the power had gone out hours ago. The oppressive darkness of the house pressed in, but she tried to shake off the unease growing in her chest. Her tabby cat, Misty, lay curled on the couch beside her, seemingly unbothered by the storm. Claire reached out to stroke her fur, finding comfort in her soft warmth. But then, Misty's ears perked up. Her head snapped toward the hallway, her green eyes narrowing into slits as a low growl rumbled from her throat. "Misty? What's wrong?" Claire whispered. Misty jumped down from the couch and padded towards the hallway, her growl growing louder. Claire hesitated, her heart pounding. The farmhouse was old and strange noises were not uncommon. But Misty's reaction was different this time. Primal, almost protective. Claire grabbed the flashlight from the table and followed Misty, who had stopped just before the hallway. The cat sat motionless, staring into the shadows ahead. "It's probably nothing," Claire said aloud, trying to reassure herself. She shone the flashlight into the hallway, the beam cutting through the darkness. The floorboards creaked under her feet as she stepped forward. Misty stayed behind, her growls fading into a low, uneasy whine. Halfway down the hall, Claire noticed something strange. The flashlight beam reflected off two tiny glowing orbs near the floor. Her breath caught. Eyes. They were staring back at her from the end of the hallway. "Misty?" she called out, glancing back to see her cat still rooted in place by the living room. The eyes were too low to belong to a person, but they didn't look like they belonged to Misty either. The eyes blinked and then they began to move, darting closer. Claire stumbled backward, a flashlight shaking in her hands. "Who's there?" she demanded, but her voice cracked, betraying her fear. A shadowy shape emerged from the darkness, sleek and feline, yet wrong. Its body was unnaturally long, its movements slow and deliberate. The creature's glowing eyes never left hers as it crept closer, its mouth opening slightly to reveal sharp, glinting teeth. "Misty, run!" Claire shouted, but her voice barely escaped her throat. The creature paused just a few feet away, its head cocking to the side as if studying her. Then from behind her, she heard the faintest sound, a low, guttural purr. Claire turned her head just enough to see another pair of glowing eyes in the shadows behind her. Then another, and another. She was surrounded. Misty hissed and bolted into the darkness. Claire's flashlight flickered as the shadows seemed to close in around her, the glowing eyes multiplying, their movements silent but deliberate. She tried to scream, but the sound was swallowed by the night. The next morning, the storm had passed, and the farmhouse was silent. The neighbors found the front door ajar, and no sign of Claire inside. Only Misty remained, sitting on the porch with wide, unblinking eyes, staring into the shadows of the woods.